On Friday, August 13th, an all-new three-dimensional process will put you in the picture, whether you want to be there or not. Friday the 13th, Part 3 in Super 3D. Join Jason in the woods on his day, if you dare. Friday the 13th, Part 3 in Super 3D. Rated R.
Friday the 13th, Part 3 opens Friday the 13th at selected theaters and drive-ins.
Hi, this is Brandon Ford.
Hi, this is Jed Shaffer.
And welcome to the Blind Rage Podcast. Very excited to have Jed back because Jed is our in-house Jason fanatic. And we are doing Friday the 13th Part 3 or Friday the 13th Part 3D, depending on how you look at it. And are you excited for this one, Jed?
Yes, it's.
I heard the enthusiasm in your voice.
It's an odd one. Like and we'll get into it more. It is one that I enjoy. I think it's a mid-tier in the Friday pantheon, but there is still some enjoyment to be had with this one.
For sure.
And plus, the Kick-Ass theme song.
That's debatable. I don't know. I think I prefer the Harry Manfredini over Disco Jason, but that's just me. What was the hot ice the guy went by?
Was it Hot Ice? Really?
Well, it was done by one guy, but yeah, he's credited as Hot Ice.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. That's that sounds like a disco artist name.
Well, there you go. I think that's what he was going for. All right. So before we get into the movie, we're going to get the plugs out of the way quickly. Please don't forget to visit Amazon.com or the Amazon app on your smartphone. Type in Brandon Ford to check out my books in both Kindle and paperback editions. You can also check out my Amazon author page. Click follow and you'll get email notifications whenever I have a new release. You can also check out my books in audiobook format on audible.com or the Audible app by typing in Brandon Ford. If you don't already, please follow me on Instagram at writer Brandon Ford. I'm on both Twitter and Facebook at Brandon Ford. The Blind Rage Podcast also has an official Facebook page, so please stop by there to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, critiques, suggestions, recommendations, please feel free to email me directly at blindragepod81@gmail.com. And as always, please don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whichever platform you're listening on. Jed, what do you want to plug?
You can follow me on Twitter at GPSG Podcast. You can find my podcast's Facebook page at the Gamer Parents Strategy Guide, and my podcast called the Gamer Parents Strategy Guide can be found on all your major podcast distribution platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, you name it.
And you're on Letterboxd.
Oh yes, and I always forget I'm on Letterboxd, even though I write reviews constantly. I finally figured out how to correct my name, so I'm at Jed Shaffer.
Oh,
yeah.
So you changed it.
Yeah, I figured out where the last name was.
Okay.
Apparently, it's not accessible through the app. You have to do it through the website, which is whatever.
Oh, they had to make it difficult. So, have you been watching anything of note or revisiting anything? Showing the boys anything?
We actually today just watched the Amityville Horror, the original.
Please tell me the original. Oh, thank God.
Yeah. Oh no,
Okay.
no. I am not gonna go leaping at remakes. Originals first, and if the original's worth it, then maybe the remake if I'm feeling crazy, which I'm usually not. But yeah, watch the original. It was fine. A little cheesy and overacted in places, and
Yeah.
yeah, and you wonder, you're watching it like, blood's dripping down the walls, and the toilet's filling with black shit, and crazy stuff's happening everywhere, and it's like day 17. You're going, why don't you just get out of the house, man?
Yeah.
I think they're sending you strong signals. Go.
Well, yeah.
That's about it recently. Like, past week or so, we've just been busy with stuff. We haven't gotten to a whole lot of movies or anything. So we had an opening in the middle of the afternoon today, and my wife's like, I think I've seen part of it. Now I want to see the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, Margot Kidder does do a fair bit of overacting in that one.
Yeah, all of them. Really. Everybody does a fair bit of overacting. And oh God, it has to be said, Margot Kidder's hair in that movie. I know this is a weird thing to bring up, but at one point she's got pigtails. At one point she stuffs a daisy in her hair. When she's doing that weird ballet thing in her bedroom, in her panties and the open dress shirt, which I'm sorry, I don't want to see Lois Lane in a sexy way. And then later she has the ribbon in her hair, and later she's dressed like a Catholic schoolgirl. I'm like, what the hell was going on with? Why were they like not infantilizing her, but giving her this young girl vibe when it was weird choices for wardrobe.
Some of this stuff I noticed, some of it I didn't, but it definitely sounds odd. I remember the daisy in the hair. That was weird.
Yeah, it's an odd movie. Not bad, but just odd.
Do you believe in the whole Amityville mythos?
No, not really.
Me neither. No.
No, it just even before, if you're a horror fan, even if you've never seen Amityville Horror, you've heard of the Lutzes and the Amityville legend and all that, and it just seems a little too custom made for a movie. Like, it seems so improbable and so out there.
Did you see the documentary My Amityville Horror about the son?
No.
Danny?
No, I can't say I've even heard of it.
It's IFC put it out. It's pretty good. He's definitely a little crazy and very, very angry. He corroborates everything. He says everything happened pretty much as is shown in the movie and in the book. He hated George. George was abusive. He had nothing but nasty things to say about him. He said he was happy when he died. And very, very touchy too. The interviewer had to be very careful about what she said to him because he was a live wire, to say the least. But it's an interesting documentary. I recommend it if you haven't seen it.
I have to look for it.
The whole Amityville thing, I found interesting. Not because I believe in any of it, and I don't believe in anything, any of the stories that the Warrens were a part of, because they claimed to have exorcised the house And, because so many people have said, if this house was haunted or whatever, how come so many people have lived there over the past 40, 50 years and nothing has happened? And they say, claim, well, it was because it was exercised by us. We did it. We fixed it, basically. So yeah, I call shenanigans.
I second the shenanigans.
Yeah. And plus, what always rubbed me the wrong way was that George and Kathy Lutz continued to try to profit on the Amityville story by writing additional books. I think there's like 4 of them, but they're different from the movie. I'm pretty sure. I started to read the second one, but it wasn't very good. And they didn't write with Jay Anson, who actually wrote the first book, but it was a different writer. And essentially what it is a fictionalized account of what happened after they left the house, because they moved cross country to California, and they made it appear as though the demon that inhabited the house followed them. So there's some paranormal events that transpired where in the house that they ended up in California, but it's fiction. So if this was the most traumatic experience of your life, why would you do something like that if you weren't in it for the money from the beginning? It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah. I'm literally facepalming just listening to this concept. It just sounds so dumb.
Yeah, the main thing that I remember about that book, the second one, was because George and Kathy were big into transcendental meditation, and he said that in one scene he said that when he got to the new house, he was sitting cross-legged against the wall trying to meditate, and the demonic forces lifted him up, slid him up the wall until he hit the ceiling. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Not good. Not even good on a... I mean, the Amityville Horror, the original book was good if you look at it as a novel, as opposed to nonfiction, which I did, so I can appreciate it for that. But yeah, I think everything centered around that whole supposed haunting is a bunch of shit.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It feels too custom made for a movie to be anything but, like, yeah. And I'm definitely not pursuing any further Amityville horror movies after this, because I know that this is one of those horror franchises that the first movie is definitely the best, and I'm using best with the strongest possible air quotes, and they just nosedive. Like, 2's not as good, 3's even worse, 4's really bad, and then they just disappear into the muck as it goes on.
Well, it's hard to even really determine which is a part of the original series, because anybody could make a movie with the word Amityville in it, and boy, did they. Because there's like 25 different movies that have Amityville in the title, and you don't know which are part of the original series.
And they've gotten real bad now. I know, because there's a YouTuber I follow called Horror Timelines, and he tried to make a continuity out of the Amityville movies, and so he had to watch them all to do it. And oh yeah, like by the 15th movie, he's got a bottle of whiskey sitting next to him. He's just so miserable, and he's like, "How many do I have? 10 more? Please help." and I'd say by the last 10 or so, they're starting to become low budget, almost homemade movies.
Yeah,
they're bad. Just the clips I saw, there's nothing even there to, like watch if you want to just watch a bad movie and riff on it, like The Room or Birdemic or something like that. They're not even up to that quality.
I think they even did an Amityville shark movie.
Oh, probably.
Mm-hmm. Moving right along.
Yep.
Recent watches for me. Earlier this week, I finally got to see It Follows, which was one that I'd always heard lots of really good things about, but I could never find an audio described version of it, and I finally did, and I thought it was underwhelming. I thought the acting was really flat. There were a lot of moments that it dragged, a lot of lulls. And I really wasn't sure what the director was trying to say with this movie.
Go ahead, finish.
I was just going to say, I don't think it was bad. I didn't hate it, but it was just middle of the road for me.
I am so relieved to hear you say that, because like you, I had heard the hype about this movie. I had heard that it was a modern classic. Every review that I had seen, every YouTuber that I had seen that talked about it, every podcast that I'd heard that talked about it, everything was 4.5 out of 5 stars, 9 out of 10. Ranking up there with the great horror movies of all time, with your Aliens and your Psychos and stuff like that. And my wife and I watched it last year, and once it was over, I went, "What was that? Is that it?" Yeah. Like it's fine. It's like he said, the acting is. Everyone seems to be on like a fifth of NyQuil throughout the entire movie. Everyone's just kind of dull and not emotive, and the filmmaking is dull and kind of sleepwalky. Like, visually speaking, it's a sleepy looking movie. It's a sleepy sounding movie. Everything about it is just half-hearted.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
It's not, the concept's interesting, even if you could punch a hole in the logic really easy, but it's, yeah. Like, I remember when it was over, my wife, like, the first thing she says, she goes, "So do blowjobs count?" Like, I don't know. That brings up a lot of questions. Does cunnilingus count? Anal? Oh. Does anal count? What about a hand job?
All right, let's.
Yeah. Like, you everything. Like, if a three-way happens, then what? Who gets the curse then? Like, it was just this whole. It just felt like the logic falls apart the minute you start thinking about it, and like, yeah.
I wasn't thinking too much about it. I was just thinking, when is this going to be over, to tell you the truth. So,
and the ending's really like, oh wow, you lured it into a pool and you shot it several times.
I know. Oh God.
Okay.
With all the TVs and the typewriter, and I was just like, come on. But I was looking at Audio Vault, where I get my audio described files just to see what new movies they had. And because I didn't have anything else besides It Follows to talk about, and I knew that we were going to record tonight, I sat through Candyman 2021.
That doesn't fill me with a lot of hope.
Oh, God. Yeah, no. Mm-mm. It was not good. It was not good at all. I think that Jordan Peele is riding too much on Get Out, which, as of the things of his that I've seen, including Us and Candyman, is the only thing worthwhile. I didn't care for Us at all, really. Candyman was just completely unnecessary. That's the best way I can describe it. And they fucked with the lore, which always annoys me when they do that with a horror icon. And what really made me roll my eyes was the fact that there were multiple Candymen who were they were essentially martyrs who were wrongfully killed because of their race, as Daniel Robitaille, the original Candyman, was. So there was 4 as a whole, I believe. And yeah, it again, it messes with the legend. And Virginia Madsen has a tiny little cameo. It was definitely her. You just hear her voice on a tape recorder. Some notes that she had made, supposedly during the first movie. And they also played audio from the first movie as part of the audio on the tape that the lead character Anthony obtains, because he does some research on the Helen Lyle character. But Tony Todd is in it for about 12 seconds. He has one line that's about 4 words. The acting was it was okay. It wasn't terrible. They had a character named Clive. Could you be more transparent there?
Yeah, it's a little on the nose.
But it's just, I didn't think the story was strong enough. And I consider the original Candyman to be one of the best horror movies of all time. And I never thought it needed to go any further than the original. I didn't think it needed a second, and it certainly didn't need a third. And it really didn't need this. It was just pointless.
You have pretty much clinched my decision to not watch it. Like, I'm with you on the original. The original is such an amazing movie, such a breathtaking movie, from all sorts of angles, from the acting to the score to the story to the themes. Everything about it is wonderful. 2 is a movie that I sat through. 3, I'm still getting therapy to get over from.
Mm-hmm.
The minute I heard, honestly, because I didn't even like Get Out. I thought Get Out was tremendously overrated. and this, I could go long into it, but this is not the time or the place, but I did not enjoy Get Out. And when I heard that he was executive producing the Candyman movie, or the Candyman reboot sequel, whatever the hell it is,
He also co-wrote it.
Yeah, I immediately went, okay, I'm already halfway checked out the door on this one. And every review I've read of it or heard of it has been, it's fine, but ... and then a list of problems.
Yeah, in the positives that I read, they were pretty much unanimous in that it was well directed and photographed, but these I can't comment on. But as far as the story goes, it's kind of a split, I think.
I heard it described as very rushed, like the movie's runtime is about 90 minutes, and it feels like there's about 15 to 20 minutes chopped out of it. That it could be, if it was expanded on, the story would feel less rushed and make more sense, and things would be earned more, but that at the speed it's way too brisk and just blows by stuff.
If it were any longer, I don't think I would have been able to sit through.
Ouch.
So I think it was fine at 91 minutes. Yeah.
Well, I don't intend to see it, so.
Yeah. What really bothered me was they fucked with the way that you could call him and what he does when he's called. It's established that if you call him, in the first movie, it was established that if you call him, you're his next victim. There's no two ways about it. But there are instances in this one where he's called upon and as like a saving grace, for a character who was in trouble, and he got her out of it by slaughtering all the people who were meant to do her harm. And that's not how Candyman works.
Yeah, that's odd. I don't like that.
No. Yeah, and there were some really cliched horror movie shots that were described, like a shadow moving by a window when the main character's back is turned to it. It's like, really? Did you have to do that? Haven't we seen that already?
Well, here's hoping the Hellraiser remake's better. The casting has me intrigued. If for no other reason, I will, because I love.
It's a woman, right?
Yeah, a trans woman at that too. Yeah, it's interesting. She's a beautiful woman too. So just the idea of her becoming Pinhead, which I'm not against, because really in the original novel, or novella, I should say, the lead Cenobite is never referred to with a gender, and it's almost, the way it's described is actually somewhat androgynous. Like it's got characteristics that kind of lean both ways. So it really makes sense in its own way that recasting Pinhead, they're going with a woman, because if you're going by the novel, it could be anything.
I don't know. I really was never into those movies. So, I know that they've continued to churn out really, really bad sequels so that they could hold on to the rights for this remake. And I'm hoping if that's the case, then this one is going to be worth it. Because from what I hear, the sequels over the past 10, 15 years or so have been really wretched.
I stopped with the last theatrically released one, which was Bloodline. Oh, that was so bad.
I don't even think that one was theatrically released.
It was. I saw it in theaters.
Oh. That's part 4, right?
Yep. That's the one that jumps through 3 different time periods and follows the family line of the inventor of the lament configuration, and it ends like the last generation is in space. So,
Oh, God.
Yeah, red fucking alarm right there. You're taking your main monster to space, and the whole thing ends up with like the space station turning into the lament configuration box and sealing Pinhead within it, and somehow.
Okay, please stop. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't even listen to this.
Dude, I walked because I loved the first 2 movies. I think the first 2 movies are a fantastic duology. The third one is fine. I walked out of that 4th one and went, what the fuck was that? I can't. And then I heard they made a 5th one, and I just went, no, I'm not even going to bother. After the 4th one, there's no coming back.
I don't know. The state of horror these days is just, it's not good. And I didn't think that we could have an era that was any worse than the aughts, when it was nothing but back-to-back remakes that were awful, and the occasional torture porn tossed in. But yeah, it's gotten bad, pretty bad, pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm definitely watching a lot more older movies that I missed than new ones that have come out.
I think that's wise. But speaking of older movies, are we about ready to get into Friday the 13th Part 3?
Yes, we are.
All right, so if you guys want to watch along, I'm sure you have no trouble finding Friday the 13th Part 3 or any of the Friday the 13th movies. So, we are going to begin with a 3 count, and we're going to begin on play. So, here we go. 3, 2, 1, play. Now, with this prologue with the footage from part 2, this is all 235, right?
235.
The ratio.
Oh, I don't know.
Because part 2 is 185, right?
That I am not an expert on the whole on the video ratio things. I am not entirely sure about that. I just remember that there is a lot of this prologue. So much prologue.
Yeah.
Like, I'm struggling to think of what to say over this because we already talked over this once before.
About it. Well, you get to see your girl, Amy Steele, again. I know you like her.
She is a good final girl. And I'll say that Chris Higgins is a good final girl. I think she really does I think they go 2 for 2 with the first 2. she's a different kind.
Her performance is a bit spotty. But I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as some people make it out to be. When she's recounting the when he attacks her in the woods, that scene leaves something to be desired. But
yes,
as a whole, she's fine. I wouldn't say she's one of my favorite final girls. You saw Sweet 16, right?
Yes.
Did you like that one?
I have a really... I don't know what to think of that movie. Like, I like it, but I find... Like, the ending comes out of nowhere. I find it a little bit gross the way that they sexualize the main girl in it. Like, they really linger on her on her in some scenes and really sexualize her very heavily, and it's a little bit skeezy. Maybe that's because I didn't see it until like a year or two ago, and so, you know, now I'm in my mid-40s and I'm watching this movie where it's a pseudo 16-year-old, and I may have had a different mindset had I seen it back then. But it's a fine movie. I would watch it again. It's just I wouldn't reach for it first.
To be honest, I saw it so long ago, I really don't remember anything about it at all. But I don't remember being all that impressed with it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not. It's not mind-blowing.
Doesn't really leave an impression.
Yeah, it's not mind-blowing. I mean, I like the mystery aspect of it, and they do a decent job with some red herrings. Although I thought it was a little bit cheesy that the one of the red herrings was named Jason. I was like, really? Come on. We get the reference. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
That was before this, wasn't it?
Sweet 16? I don't know. You know what? Here, let me look it up real quick.
I thought it was like 81.
Sweet 16. 1983.
Oh.
So it would be the year in between Part 3 and Part 4.
I wonder if they're trying to make Dana Kimmel into a screen queen.
Right? That does seem interesting that she was in them like one right after the other.
Yeah, they're cringing at Warrington Gillette's ugly face. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god, he looks like a Walmart greeter. And now the retcon.
Or does it switch to 235 here when he starts to drag himself out of frame?
Doesn't look like it's changed.
There we go. Disco theme.
This makes me happy.
Well, that's good then.
I mean, I admit, it's a dorky song. It has absolutely no business being in a slasher movie. It doesn't evoke the emotion of a slasher. I mean, it doesn't create any tension whatsoever. It makes me bounce.
No,
I'm sitting here in my seat and I'm bouncing, which is the complete wrong mood.
Yes.
But I just love it because of that.
Well, It's definitely something that fans of the series can appreciate for nostalgic purposes. It would definitely bring you back to a simpler time when you first discovered these movies and got into them, and you know. But
and it's a nice breakup of the opening credits of the movies, because if you marathon these movies, one is black background, white letters, Harry Manfredini score. 2, same thing. 4, 5, 6, 7, they're all the same damn opening. The only 2 of them in the Paramount run that have anything unique or different about them is this one and Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the only ones with, like, genuine songs to them. So, go figure.
That's true. I think, though, kids who are discovering the series, this one in particular, now, as soon as they hear that music, they're like, "What the fuck?" Because it's definitely not. It's not something that you would expect to hear in a horror movie, especially not in a slasher movie.
Yeah, no, when I showed this to my twins for the first time and that theme song came up, they did both kind of look at me like, the hell are you getting me into with this?
God damn it, Harold! I spent all day yesterday washing your clothes. Look what you're doing.
And now we get to watch the actor look directly at the camera to find his mark.
With you and all your sloppy habits.
Mm,
And I get no help from you at all.
You're now Tony Martin. The quiet little community
All right,
of the lake was shocked today with
this scene's so important.
a mass murder scene. 8 corpses
Okay.
have been discovered.
8 corpses. The news guy said 8 corpses.
Mm-hmm.
That is important because of the
Okay.
long-standing debate of the ending of Friday the 13th, Part 2. The is it a dream and what happened to Paul debate, which are intertwined. A lot of people say that Paul died because you don't see him at the end. All you see is Ginny getting into the wheelchair, or I'm sorry, wheeled into the back of the ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
8 bodies, not counting Alice, who was several years prior to that prologue took place 5 years prior to the events of the rest of Friday 2. Your 8 dead bodies are Ralph, the deputy, Scott, the sex pest, Mark, the guy in the wheelchair, Jeff and Sandra, Vicky, Terry. That's 8. That newscast proves Paul survived.
Okay.
It's just that's long been kind of a bugaboo of mine, like that people just that there's this, no, Paul's dead because you don't see him. No, well, that right there. 8 bodies, boom, done.
Christ, Harold. Just take what's yours and leave the rest for me to do.
I know that there has been a lot of debate on what happened to Paul. I was always under the impression that he survived. I just thought that she was calling for him because they'd been through the ringer together and she wanted to be near him, as you know. She was being carted into the ambulance. I didn't think that she thought something happened to him.
Okay, boys, soup, son.
And I didn't think anything happened to him.
What's the matter, Lionel?
This guy's so gross.
Fine, it's good.
I was never.
I'm eating.
I was for a while. I wasn't sure of what happened, and then I saw that broken down somewhere online. I went, you know, what? That makes perfect sense. 8 bodies, 8. If they say it's 8 bodies, you count the dead. Boom, there's 8. Now, you know, what does that do for the ending, though, with Jason crashing through the window? Is that a dream sequence? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Because it fits. One has a dream sequence at the end. spoilers for a 40-year-old movie, 3 has a dream sequence at the end. There was intending to be a dream sequence at the end of 4.
Yeah. Yeah, and it had to have been a dream sequence because you see him drag himself off at the beginning of this one, so...
Right.
And he was clearly wounded, so... I don't think he could have had enough energy to come crashing through the window, because at this point, Jason wasn't a mongoloid. He still had some semblance of humanity,
Right.
I guess.
Put that filthy animal back where it belongs. Come on.
You know what somebody pointed out to me that I never really thought about before was, even though he essentially gets a different mask in every movie, they always, at least to the best of my recollection, find some way to put that crack in it from when Chris hits him with the axe toward the end of this one.
Yeah, they do retain that. Well, I mean, he keeps the mask until... He keeps the mask through 4. Tommy gives it back to him in 6. It doesn't break till 7. 8, though, is weird. Like, where did the axe mark come from in the one that he has in 8? Like, I've never understood that. And it's been so long since I've seen Jason Goes to Hell or Jason X. I don't recall if it's got the notch in either one of those.
I don't think so. Because in Jason Goes to Hell, Adam had the vision for Jason to have been wearing the mask so long that his skin had grown around it. So if it's there, I don't think you see it, at least in the beginning. I think when he's resurrected at the end, he's more the traditional Jason. He's not the Jason that's at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, it's literally been probably like 20 years since I've seen it. Because I got, when DVD really started to take off and Paramount put out the From Crystal Lake to Manhattan set, I got that, and I never bothered getting Jason Goes to Hell when it, I think it came out briefly and it didn't come out with the director's cut at first.
No, it did.
Did it?
It had both, yeah.
Oh.
I think it was both, or maybe it wasn't. I know that the DVD is unrated. But whether or not both are on there, I think I might be thinking of Chainsaw 3 because they both came out around the same time, and Chainsaw 3 had both the R and the unrated on it on the DVD. This is probably best for the Jason Goes to Hell commentary, but I first saw that one on a screener, and it was the unrated. And then when I finally saw it again later, I didn't know that there was a director's cut. I just knew that the famous tent sequence was fucked up. And I was like, what happened here?
Yeah, my first experience with that one was seeing it in theaters. So when it came out on VHS and there was a there was a director's cut and a theatrical cut, it was like, oh wow, there's bonus material? Okay.
Oh, your mind must have been blown.
Oh yeah, it was. Like, here's all this extra material, the extra gore, the tent scene.
The White House on the left.
So,
Come on out and meet your dad.
getting back to this movie, though, one thing,
Maybe this wasn't such a good idea.
since we've done part 2 and we're now on part 3, if listeners, you go and check out my Letterboxd, I do have reviews of my opinions of all of the Friday the 13th series. One thing I think 2 and 3 I think are kind of great bookend movies because they both advance from Friday 1 was a passable movie, but it's got pacing. There's a lot of issues with it. Pacing issues, some acting issues, scripting issues, lots of stuff.
Yeah.
2, I think, improves upon it with pacing and with characters. I think the teenage characters certain ones are a little bit funner and a little more relatable. That whole Vicky and Mark storyline is really kind of cute. But Jason is a bumbling goof. This one, I think they nailed Jason a lot better. Not the best. I still am not a great Richard Brooker fan, but I think he's a drastic improvement over part 2. But the characters in this one aren't as good. So it's like they got one thing right and one thing wrong, and then they switched them for part 3.
Is everything all right? Just your basic old-fashioned. So, which one's my date?
Well, I think Vera's a little cunty.
Sorry.
I like. Well, not all of them. I think, at least for me, have any eye candy. The only ones that immediately come to mind were Mark in part 2, and I think Andy here is really, really cute. And the guy in the tent in Goes to Hell. But as far as Andy's character concerned, this one was one of the first times, I think, in the series where Jason uses a characteristic of one of the characters against him. Because Andy's into juggling and he walks with his hands and he does all this yo-yos, that kind of stuff, and that ultimately becomes his doom. Kind of like how Freddy later uses all of your fears against you.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't really like about this one was what's her name? Who's pregnant? Andy's girlfriend. Why
am I blanking? Debbie,
right. Yeah, that was just added like on the spot. That wasn't even in the script.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that because it serves no purpose.
No. Well, the only purpose it did, the only purpose that it at least was intended to, was to make her death more disturbing. And I think this movie as a whole is too goofy for any of the deaths to be remotely disturbing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm sitting here trying to think of, like, Andy's death is cool.
Yeah, that's a really good. That's a good one. But that one's not disturbing. That one's more like, ugh.
Yeah, that one's just gruesome. Disturbing. Yeah, no, none of them are really disturbing. They're just. there. Like, they're either goofy because of some bizarre special effect that has to cater to the 3D, or they're just run-of-the-mill. A lot of them really get undone by the 3D, I think. The fireplace poker one gets undone, I think, by the 3D and by the acting. The worst acting in, as far as I'm concerned, her death scene's the worst acting in the series.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
They're all dead. Shelly.
No, I remember showing all these to my ex a long time ago, and I used to have a friend named Debbie, who, you know, let's just say she had her faults. But when I was watching this with my ex, the line, "It's probably just Debbie having an orgasm," became a thing. I couldn't stop laughing. And then it became a thing after the movie. I don't think he was anywhere near as amused by it as I was, but I thought it was pretty funny. Especially since Debbie was kind of a slut.
Right?
No, the one that I knew.
Oh. Gotcha.
Oh my god.
It's a silly movie, though, anyway. Like, this really has a goofy tone, and not an intentional goofy tone. You know, Part 6 intentionally has comedy to it. This has comedy, and I don't think it was ever really intended to be funny. It was intended to be a straightforward slasher movie with 3D elements, and something about it just comes off a little bit goofy.
There's one thing I could have used in this one, were a few more shots of Rick in the barn, because he's fucking jacked.
He is. That dude's buff.
And you like barely even see anything. I was like, what the fuck? Oh, bullshit.
Now, that being said, I will say that unless he is supposed to be in his early 20s, this dude is not passing for a teenager.
No.
Even as a kid, I was looking at him like, what, is he like 27?
Well, what the fuck is the deal with what's her name and Chong?
Oh god, yeah. Yeah, again, as a kid, I watched this and went, so girl Cheech and Chong, why? How are they related to anybody here? Is this supposed to be funny?
He, and like, was he supposed to be a fucking a chaperone or something? I don't know.
Is he like the weed dealer?
Maybe that's how he got invited.
And then he just brought his old lady with him.
Yeah. The rest of them, well, yeah. With the exception of Rick, look like they belong together as a group.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rick is out of place. Chong is definitely out of place. The girlfriend looks a little too old. Not too old, but too old to be with them. But too young to be with him.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And Shelley is a little bit of a... I mean, I get it. Him and Andy do have kind of that... They're both kind of goofballs. We're using the word goofy and goof a lot. But
we're watching Friday the 13th Part 3.
Fair play. They do have kind of a goofiness in common, so I can see them as a common thread, or as having a common link, I should say. But just if you just line the group up, Shelley is a real weird outlier.
Yeah.
You don't even have any horses. You never did.
And
Every year he makes plans to buy a
you could see how annoyed Andy is by him and his shenanigans. So
Opportunity.
I don't understand why he even bothers to spend time with them.
You mean you actually
Yeah, it's Shelley as a character is, I think when you're younger, you think that he's funny because he's just
I realize I'm just a
odd and weird and goofy, but as an adult, you look at him and go, "You've got mental problems. You're pretending to have an axe in your head and fake blood and falling out of a cabinet, and you're doing that for attention, and you think this is going to make people like you?"
place. You know what I mean? So what I think we should do is set aside 3 hours a day to fulfill our needs.
And that's no disrespect to Larry Zerner, because
2 at night.
Larry Zerner's cool. Like,
Yeah,
You-
he
you-
seems like a nice guy.
yeah, and you follow him on Twitter, and he's really funny. He still loves, despite the fact that he's an entertainment lawyer now, he still really loves and represents the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good. Yeah, he doesn't have to do that, but he really loves where he came from.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a shame his character hasn't aged very well.
No. I'm jumping a little bit ahead here, but I was just listening to a podcast last night where they were talking about Fright Night, and I was thinking about
Is anybody in there?
the guy in the gang, the black guy who plays the bouncer in Fright Night.
Shameful admission, I've never seen Fright Night. It's on my watch list. As a matter of fact, I want to say that I found where what streaming site it's on. I do need to see it. I know I need to see it.
I don't even know who you are anymore.
I don't know how I missed it either, because I remember the box art so clearly, and it has some of the coolest box art. But for some reason, I just never got around to seeing it as a kid.
And the great thing about Fright Night is you don't have to be a fan of vampire movies to like it. Because I'm really not. I really couldn't give a shit about vampires. But that movie's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of really, really cool special effects in it.
And that's what I've heard. Like, it's a vampire movie for anybody. You don't even have to like horror. That it's just kind of this nice blend of horror but it's lighthearted enough. Yeah.
I even liked the remake. I thought the remake was pretty good.
Hey! Let me go with you. I gotta get out of here too.
Fright Night Part 2 was decent. Not as good as the first one. But it's passable. And you got William Ragsdale and Roddy McDowell to come back.
Which is impressive.
But the there's a scene in a club and the black guy who's in the gang in the grocery store, he plays a bouncer in Fright Night.
Just my imagination. I shouldn't have come back here so soon.
Don't let it get to you.
So, speaking of interesting casting,
Nothing's gonna happen to you when we're all here together.
so right now it's Dana Kimmel and Tracy Savage. I'm sure you know Tracy's post-Friday career.
Yeah, newscaster.
I didn't know this until recently. She was a witness in the O.J. Simpson trial.
I just heard that recently too. Yeah.
apparently she had some. I don't know exactly what the information was that she had, but she'd gotten information from an inside source, and she had kept it anonymous, and she was called to the stand, and the judge threatened her with contempt of court, and she cited shield law that allows a reporter to, even under testimony and under compulsion from a court, you can refuse to name your source to protect them. And she cited it and basically told the judge to go screw himself.
Mm.
And now she's a professor at, I want to say, UCLA or UC Berkeley, somewhere down there.
Oh,
So,
I didn't know. I didn't know she wasn't a newscaster anymore.
yeah, she, where was it? Yeah, college professor in Los Angeles. She teaches journalism, broadcasting, and film and radio production.
Nice.
And she's recently gotten back into movies. She had a part in the 13 Fanboy movie, playing herself.
Hey, that was a 20.
Which one? It's just called 13?
It's called 13 Fanboy.
The way I feel right now, I'd probably get us into an accident.
Have you
I
not
don't
heard?
know that one.
Oh, okay. So,
Situation like that.
it's Deborah Voorhees from Part 5. The really, she was one half of the
That's the
really,
one.
yeah, the one that the female of the two people that had sex in the forest. She wrote this movie where I guess you could call it the new nightmare of Friday the 13th, in that it uses actors from the series, and a serial killer is stalking these actresses, or these actors and actresses. So it's
That
got
sounds awesome.
Tracy Savage, Deborah Voorhees, Sam from Part 4, Judy Aronson, Kane Hodder, C.J. Graham. There's one or two others that I'm blanking on. Oh, Junior from Part 5, the redneck.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, for no reason whatsoever, Dee Wallace.
Well, do you need a reason to have Dee Wallace?
No, but it does break the whole 13 fanboy thing.
Yeah.
Like
but
they-
I'll allow it because she's Dee Wallace, and Dee Wallace is awesome.
And that's fair. Like, I do. And if you love horror, you can't not love Dee Wallace.
I did it! Did I do it? Yes, you did, and you were great!
So yeah, it's like I said, it's this killer that's going around trying to pick off the members of the cast because he was locked in a basement by his dad or someone. I don't remember who, and he was held there for years, and the only things that were down there was a TV and the VHSs of the Friday series and the Halloween movies. And those, quote unquote, became his family, and somehow that leads to murder.
And this was a fan film.
No, it was written and produced. Well, I mean, I guess you could call it a fan film. It was written and directed by Deborah Voorhees. It just came out this year, 2021.
Shelley made him
It was all the money, I believe, was raised on Kickstarter. So I mean, technically, it's a fan film. I mean, it's professionally made, but it was definitely crowdfunded.
Minor repairs. It'll be good as new.
I've had it. I thought it was
Is it on YouTube or did it get like
It's
DVD or?
it's digital rental right now.
Oh,
So you have to.
well, if she's making money from it, then technically it's not a fan film.
Yeah, I mean,
play fair, do you?
from a legal standpoint, no, it's not a fan film. It's just, you know what I mean. It's it does exist somewhere above a fan film, but below a professional film.
So it's kind of like how when I always forget her name. But when she made Showgirls 2.
We'll be all alone.
I'm sorry, what? Showgirls 2?
Nobody will see.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds disgusting. Let's go.
I'll grab a
You didn't know there was a Showgirls 2?
No.
Well, you're not really missing much. It's not very good. But yeah, one of the strippers at the club, who incidentally was in Candyman 3. She was also a stripper in the movie Striptease, and why her name is escaping me right now, I don't know. But she wrote and directed and produced some kind of like female, like Tank Girl, barbed wire type movie where she was like some kind of a superhero type thing. And then she wrote and directed Showgirls 2. And because she was friends with some of the people who were in it, she got them to work for a day on it for like nothing. And she does appearances a lot at screenings where they do Showgirls double features. It's not good, but
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, Showgirls wasn't high art, so...
No, but it's a cult classic, at least to me.
I do know it has a cult following. I can't believe I'm saying this. I've only seen it once. It was when it came out on video. And, all the hype for straight guys was you get to see Jesse Spano naked. I didn't think I would get tired of seeing Jesse Spano naked, but by God, somehow I did.
Yeah, you get to see all of Jesse Spano.
Like, I've probably seen I don't. It was just one of those movies where I'm like, okay, yeah, nudity. Come on, let's go. More plot, please.
That's another one where it wasn't an equal opportunity, because there was like one male nude scene and it's Kyle MacLachlan, and I'll pass on that one. And he didn't even do full frontal, but the women, you saw everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bunch of bullshit. You could have a movie with naked women for the 2-hour, 11-minute duration. Throw some dick in there.
Right? Equal opportunity. Come on. Yeah, I have never understood, like, I get the whole point of the bikers being here. Like, that Shelly and Vera going to the store is what brings the bikers back here so they could drain the gas so the van doesn't work later on. It's a bit convoluted, but fine and dandy. But I've never understood why Fox goes into the barn. Like, she gets just easily distracted by the fact that there's a barn.
R.I.P., by the way.
And the bikers, your big revenge plan for this guy running over your bicycles or your motorcycles with a car is to steal their gas?
No, they're going to burn down the barn.
Oh, right. Duh.
What the hell are you doing? Get off that thing.
Then you need gas for that? I mean, hay's the perfect accelerant. Don't ask me how I know that.
Come on. We got shit to do.
I promise I have not burned down any barns, but...
I don't know what to make of this guy. I remember being quite thrown in the Crystal Lake Memories documentary when he started talking like Woody Allen. I didn't know if it was a joke or what the deal with that was.
God, I don't even remember that. Now,
Yeah, he sounds exactly like Woody Allen.
oh, that's creepy. The world doesn't need more than one Woody Allen. It barely needs the Woody Allen we have.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's I guess it's a testament to his acting that, you know, he can sound like the most nebbish, nerdy guy on earth in real life, and yet biker badass here.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't talk like this in the documentary.
Oh, the 3D shots. The one thing...
Do you know what the budget on this was?
I've heard. I know that it was bigger than the previous two.
I would think it would be the biggest, one of the biggest in the franchise because of the 3D.
I know that the 3D systems gave him such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
According to Wikipedia, 2.2 million.
Wow.
Now let's see what Friday the 13th Part 2 budget was. Only $1 million less, 1.25. So really not much difference.
What the hell you guys doing up there?
And this made considerably more than Part 2. Huh.
Yeah. I can't believe that the budget was so low because the amount of film stock they had to buy must have made up the majority of that.
Right.
Because of all of the takes. Because everything had to be so precise.
Yeah, I know. The stories of just that scene in the not the diner. They're not in a diner. The store.
The convenience store.
Yeah.
Where he throws the wallet.
Yeah. Larry Zerners talked about how they had to do that something like a dozen times because he just couldn't. He had to throw it
more than that.
Yeah, we had to like throw it at a certain angle, and he couldn't get the angle right. And I know that it was a new 3D technology that they were working with too. Like this was the first movie to be filmed with the Luma 3D system.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I know, new technology, that's got to be expensive.
Yeah. And yeah, I find it so surprising because filming in 3D was so expensive. That was the main reason why they could only do like the last 15 minutes of Freddy's Dead in 3D.
It's deceiving.
What do you mean?
The quiet can fool you. Fooled me.
I've never even seen this in 3D.
Neither have I. Have I? No. Mm-mm.
Chris, why'd you come back here?
I mean, technically, we both got a 3D version now because I know the 3D version is on the Scream Factory box set, but I don't have a TV that's capable of doing 3D.
I'm here with you. Can't that be enough for now?
I don't know. I mean, I don't see you for months on end. And then when I do, you put this barrier up between us. How do I break through?
Yeah, it's a shame the rape victim.
Yeah. I never really thought of it like that, but yeah.
It just suddenly came to me like, I mean, technically he doesn't know at this point because it isn't until just a few minutes later that she really goes into the assault. But like,
you know, when I was a kid and I used to watch this, I never thought that he raped her.
I don't really think that he did either. I mean, assault at least.
I thought I didn't, because Jason, I think even in this one, when they were still trying to develop him as a character, I don't think that he was intended to have any kind of libido whatsoever. I think he was just trying to kill her, or that's what I always assumed. And she somehow managed to fight him off, and I think that it's definitely not uncommon to have a blackout if you've been through a trauma. So,
Look, I'm gonna go outside for a few minutes, and then when I get back in,
I don't know what I don't know.
I think the part that makes it feel a little bit more like it could be a sexual assault is her reaction to it. And not that as someone who gets mugged or someone who gets attacked can't be traumatic, can't be traumatized and have flashbacks and PTSD. Just something about the way that she describes it and the way that she reacts to it, it feels like more than just being attacked. Even though there's no evidence to back that up.
Yeah, and the way he attacks, where he's dragging her and kind of pawing at her, it's definitely different than the way he's killed in the past.
And the fact that she's sexually frigid. I mean, she almost, you can almost see her physically shrink and revulse at the touch of Rick.
Oh.
Which, like when they first meet and, he tries to hug her and she looks awkward, and then they shake hands, and just the way that she reacts to it is very, she plays it more like a rape victim, even though it isn't played like it was a sexual assault. It's very odd.
Well, Rick can touch me all he wants. Have you ever been in a hammock, by the way?
Yes, I have been in a hammock. Not with another human being, but
I've never been in one.
They're a better concept than they are really in execution. Maybe it's just me, but no matter what, whether it's tied to trees or whether it's tied to like a double-sided A-frame or whatever, I never feel like the support structure is actually holding me.
So you have trouble. You have trouble. What do you call it? Going with it, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Just relax and just drift.
Yeah. I cannot just slide into a hammock and be like, I'm resting on a cloud. Like, no, I'm very aware that I'm resting in netting that is suspended in some odd way, that I'm only being held up by ropes tied in knots.
I think there is definitely a reason you don't see Andy and Debbie have sex in the hammock, because they would have been all over the floor, twisting and turning in that thing.
Yeah, I can't even imagine trying to do it.
No.
It would have to be the most motionless, squirming, like...
Yeah.
Like, you... no, that's not... I turned around. Because that's the other thing, is that hammocks require a certain amount of balance. You have to know how to get in them, and you have to know how to get out of them. And if you want to change your position, you have to know how to roll without actually tipping the damn thing. And because you can roll in if you're not rolling in place, but you're actually rolling on a horizontal plane, you can tip that thing over really quickly. So two people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Logistically, it sounds like a damn nightmare. I'd be
like, you know what, fuck it, we're leaving it on the floor. I don't care about the rug burns at this point.
Yeah, no, I don't need this level of kink in my life. Let's just find a flat, stable surface. God bless the people who can, but no. Give me a bed.
When I woke up, I was in my own bed. My parents have never said a word about it.
Well, have you told your parents anything about it?
All I want is to just forget it.
You know, I never really thought about it before. This is the second movie in a row where a victim of a traumatic attack goes back to the place where the attack happened in an attempt to work through the PTSD of it.
We're gonna have to watch that.
What are we talking about?
So in Friday 2, at the beginning, Alice goes back to Crystal Lake to try and work through the trauma of what happened at the camp. Chris is coming back to Higgins Haven to do the same thing. It's the second movie in a row where there's a female character coming back to the spot where she was attacked in order to try and work through the demons that she's having because of the attack.
Alice was in Crystal Lake in the beginning of part 2?
Yeah, that is supposed to be Crystal Lake.
Are you sure?
I'm dead positive. That's it. It's in the I believe it's in the Crystal Lake Memories book too.
I never heard that.
Yeah, that's which is supposed to be the answer to, because everyone goes, how did Jason find her? It's supposed to be that she went back there to try and process. And then they repeat it again in part 7.
Yeah, that's true. I always just assumed that she lived somewhere just outside of Crystal Lake, or somewhere very close to Crystal Lake. I never thought that she had gone back there because it looks too suburban to me.
Well, you know these movies in continuity.
This is true.
I mean, we're only 2 movies away from being told that Jason Voorhees was cremated. I just saw part of that the other day. Pluto TV on their horror channel was showing 5, 6, 7, and 8. I don't know why those 4, but it was showing those, and I tuned into 5 just at the scene where the mayor comes in and is talking to the sheriff, and the mayor sounds like a character like straight out of Goodfellas.
God.
This movie does love...
you have...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you have this ominous music. It doesn't go with the disco theme.
No, it doesn't.
What were you going to say?
This movie loves sending people into the barn.
It does.
Again, another parallel with Part 7. This movie likes sending people into the barn. Part 7 loves to send people into the forest.
Part 5 likes to send people into the barn.
True. Yeah, it does seem to be a running thing of, let's pick somewhere on a nearby property and just have people keep wandering there for made-up reasons.
Guess he must have left.
Come on, let's get out of here.
I'm not going
Dude, weren't you smoking a joint when you walked in the barn?
That's too much.
All right. right, birth of an icon here, or prelude to the birth of an icon, I should say. And I live near the city that inspired it. Sad thing is, two sad things. One, I have no idea who the goalie was that wore that mask. I just know that it was a goalie on the Red Wings. And Detroit, if it is even in, if it has penetrated the culture of Detroit at all, you wouldn't know it.
Being a jerk is better than being a nothing.
I never said you were nothing.
You don't have to say it. I could tell.
You're wrong. Shelley.
I wonder who really came up with the idea for the hockey mask, because there was like at least 4 people, or 4, maybe more, who have been trying to and have their own backstory as far as how they came to that conclusion that he should wear a hockey mask. But they were toying with different masks because they had so many issues with the sack in part 2 that it was decided, I'm pretty sure, before this even started filming, that when you were actually going to see Jason stalking and stuff, that he was going to be wearing a different mask. But the hockey mask, I guess it's going to be a mystery that will forever remain unsolved as far as whose idea it actually was.
Yeah, I know that, like you said, I've heard at least 4 people all be like, yeah, I brought it. It was my idea to use it. I brought it to set. I painted it. Like many of the things about Friday the 13th, especially lately, it's about a big argument.
That's true.
You guys doing something I shouldn't see?
Now, did anybody really give a shit when he got killed?
No.
I think people were just relieved.
The only thing about his death that, and to this day, just annoys the crap out of me, is it is a good 15 to 20 minutes before we see him again when he stumbles into the kitchen with his throat slit.
Yes, yeah.
Like somehow he just summoned up the gusto to be able to walk with his, stumble from the barn to the house with blood pouring down his throat.
Well, he bled out first. And then after he was finished bleeding out, then he found the strength to get up and go into the kitchen.
In this movie, that's logical.
I really don't know what anybody was thinking with trying to set Shelley up with Vera in the first place.
Right?
It's like, did you really think that she was going to go for him?
Yeah, it's... If, the 1,000,000 to 1 shot that they would have actually hit it off, he was, just from a look standpoint, he would be way out kicking his coverage.
Definitely. I'm willing to bet in the it's in 4K? This one's in 4K in the shop?
Yeah.
Factory?
Yeah, the first 4 are in 4K.
You can see the wire that the spear's on.
Yep. I always try to look for it now. Even I haven't watched the Blu-ray, the 4K Blu-ray of it yet, but I'm always, whenever he's lining up that gun, that moment takes me out of it because you can see he's carefully lining it up to get into the 3D, the crosshairs of the camera.
I vote for me.
I vote for the hammock.
Where you going?
Taking a shower. You gotta try it sometime.
Yeah, you know what I didn't understand was why the whole set wasn't in 2K or 4K. Why they only did the first 4.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either.
I think it was just kind of rushed. Or maybe they had to get it out by a certain date because they were going to lose the rights to it because they probably only had the rights to distribute all of them for a limited time.
Possibly.
Like they did with the Halloween set.
Because it can't be accessibility. I mean, they've obviously got the masters for them.
Right. Yeah, no. Yeah, I think it had to be a rights issue. They just didn't have the time.
And I never see where Jason, like, I can never figure out where Jason was before that no one noticed him, and then all of a sudden he just pops up and hides in the hallway. He's a big-ass dude, man. Stealth is not his strong suit.
No. I mean, even though you don't like really see as much as you see in the director's cut of Ghost Hell, I still think what is on screen is pretty fucking gnarly.
Oh,
the way it's
for Andy's death, yeah. The way, and especially the way that it's shot, it's a creative way to put the camera underneath and then see the impact in his body fall apart on top of the camera.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's one of the best kills in the series.
Agreed. I definitely put it. I'd probably put that top 10. And I would say actually, I'd probably put it higher than the one that most people seem to think is the number one, which is the cryo kill in part 10.
I know. Everybody loves that one. That's the only real takeaway from Jason X is that.
And it's a cool idea of a kill.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
But
it's fine. It wasn't enough to save the fucking movie.
No. But I think there are definitely better kills. The tent scene in Jason Goes to Hell, the sleeping bag kill from part 7, preferably the original theatrical cut.
I don't know. I mean, I always, I thought about it. I mean, because like you see blood and shit fly out of the sleeping bag in the original cut, right? But I always thought him just smacking her against the tree the one time showed how strong he was. So I think that was effective, at least for that particular kill in part 7.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think both ways have their merits. I think the original theatrical cut is cool for just the sheer overkill brutality of it, whereas I think you're right, for the one shot is more efficient and more puts over how strong and brutal that he is.
No.
How come you never scream when we have sex?
Give me something to scream about.
What's the matter?
And going back to the kill, Debbie's kill just a moment ago, the Crystal Lake Memories documentary, finding out why her chest tented up like that, it was so nice to finally figure out why, because for the longest time I was like, why does it push up and then pierce through, and then to find out that all the extra lighting that they had to do because of the 3D melted the whatever it was they were using for the fake torso. It made it too soft, and that's what caused it to do that. It was nice to find that out, because it looks, that is one of the poorer looking kills because of that.
Yeah. As far as like hokey kills in this one, I was really never fond of Rick's eyeball popping out. It was stupid.
Is there anyone who really likes that?
It was just one that was clearly done for the 3D effect, and that's about it.
Yeah. If it had popped out and just fallen on the cheek, it would have been one thing.
Ugh.
You know? I'm not saying that would have been... I mean, that's gross, but at least it would have been realistic, as opposed to seeing the 3-foot rod behind the eyeball.
Chuck, you back already? Well, at least you got the outside lights working.
And now Shelley finally shows up.
Nice makeup job. Stop fooling around, man.
Yeah, we know she's a hippie because she used the word man.
All hippies talk like that, of course. And to think that they actually almost did, or that at least it was pitched to do a Jason meets Cheech and Chong movie.
I know. I don't know what the fuck Tom McLaughlin was thinking.
Yeah, for the work that he did on Part 6, it's like...
I know. It's like...
Yeah. This is one
I mean...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is one of those... There's so many sequels, and I think we touched on it before, that almost happened that didn't, that were just so questionable in their concept.
Yeah, I did. I watched that video that you recommended to me after we recorded that commentary on the YouTube video that talked about all the sequels that never got made.
Mm-hmm. There's some truly batshit insane ideas in that video.
Yeah, the one with that what's his name from Part 7 wrote was a little
Kevin Spiritus.
Kevin Spiritus, yes.
Yeah, it seemed really vindictive. Like, I know that he and Lar Park Lincoln didn't get along, but to write a whole script where you bury her, what was the friggin' point of that? Did you really think that that was going to get made into a movie?
I don't think I knew that. They didn't get along.
Oh yeah, they did not get along at all. And part of it, I think, was because like there's several different factors from what I've heard of it. Part of it was that Lar Park Lincoln was much older than the rest of the cast. Like she was in her late 20s, and she was married, and everyone else was younger, and it was a much more party atmosphere, and so she was kind of sequestering herself away from that, and so everyone thought that she was just being a stuck-up queen about it. And then Part 7, and Kevin Spiritus is one of them. That movie, a lot of the male cast was gay, but a lot of them were, from what I've heard, several of them were conflicted about it, conflicted about coming out and admitting it, and I believe that might have been a source of friction between the two of them as well, although I don't know how. Neither one of them seemed to be very open about that part of it.
Well, I hope she didn't out him, because that would have not been cool.
No, I don't think it was that, no. I think it was... I don't know if he just wasn't comfortable with himself yet, and maybe that caused friction, or... I really can't say for sure. Just, it seemed like there was a lot of factors causing the two of them to just not get along. And here comes the eyeball kill.
I know she self-published a book about being a stage mom, because I think her daughter is an actress or something.
Huh. I did not know that.
Or something. It was something about like keeping your kids safe in Hollywood. Something along those lines.
Where's that coming from?
And we've now reached the final girl circuit portion of the show.
I don't know what kind of game you guys are playing, but I don't like it.
We always have to have the "this isn't funny, you guys" moment.
You guys up here?
Because who doesn't go
Which
on...
they had in the new Candyman, by the way.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, it's so uncommon, or so common to go on vacation with 8 or 9 other people and have all of them go quiet and pretend the house is empty.
Mm.
Who the fuck does that?
Well, I mean, and two, in any of these movies, in any, not just a Friday movie, but a slasher movie, but to go away or to be with, in a part of a group of contemporaries and think that everybody's like conspiring to pull this huge elaborate joke. Have you ever been in a group like that and had like people pull a prank on you where like everybody disappears or pretends they're dead? Has that ever like happened to anybody before, ever?
Not that I'm aware of. I can't say I know anyone who that's happened to.
I mean, I don't understand why everybody always goes to "this is a joke" and a not funny one in these movies.
Yeah, if you think your friends are capable of that, on numerous levels. One, just the logistical coordination of it, but two, the sadism of that. Like that's beyond a practical joke. That's just being mean-spirited.
Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, it probably might happen today because you hear stories about teenage girls video recording their friends being sexually assaulted just so they can post it on Instagram and get likes.
True.
So...
True. Kids today are pretty sick.
Oh. Did you hear that story about that guy who was drowning and those 3 kids recorded it and laughed at him?
No.
And called them names. I think he was special needs too, this guy. And yeah, he was drowning in a lake and these 3 kids were on a dock and recording the whole thing and laughing at him and calling him stupid and using the R word and did nothing to help him. And he died.
Fucking kids.
And I think they should have been tried as adults for murder.
Yeah. Yeah, you... you took not only did you take no action, you stood there and mocked someone who clearly was incapable of fending for themselves.
Either he was special needs or he was in a wheelchair. It was one or the other.
Kids. I could go on rants about kids because, you know, having my own, 2 of them were in high school. Kids are weird people these days, man.
These crazy kids today.
God, I sound old. You do know that you could pull the door open, right, Jason?
I don't think Jason knows how to use a door. Which one was it? Was it in part 4 where they were going to have them driving? I think it was part 4. And Joe Zito was like, "No."
I hadn't heard about that one. I know that they were planning on having him driving in one of the Freddy vs. Jason scripts. Like he was driving and it was a sports car. It was like a Corvette or something.
I don't remember hearing about that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was part 4. And Joe Zito said no.
One of the few things he said no to.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he seems like such a sleaze.
Yeah, he's not a director that I would relish working with. I mean, yeah. Definitely.
I wonder how.
Go ahead. Definitely one of the series, not necessarily for his filmmaking capabilities, but for just him as a person. Definitely one of the series' lesser directors.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I wonder how he was toward the cast in The Prowler.
Yeah, because it's not that it's an obscure movie, but it's just not a high profile slasher movie. It's like a B tier, I guess you could say. So it's not one of those movies that's going to get documentaries and retrospectives and $50 Scream Factory special editions.
No, but I think there is a Blu-ray, and I'm pretty sure it has Blue Underground put it out. I think, and I'm pretty sure there is some interviews and stuff. But I don't know. I was never really a big fan of that movie because I thought it was the kills were pretty neat and had some good special effects, but the movie as a whole I thought was just so fucking boring.
Well, that was what, 81, 82. Yeah, like it's really when slashers were being pumped out at such an alarming and manufactured rate. Like it's not like a lot of slashers had put them in the first place, but they were just being pumped out so much volume that it was just like, get 7 people, get half of them naked, kill them off, one survives the end.
See, that's why I consider 81 to be the slasher peak, because they were at their best. The most of them that were coming out, they were pretty decent, and then the quality just dropped off from there. As the years went on, they got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, they definitely did. Like, they started to rely more on gimmicks, holiday themes. Dear God, name a fucking holiday, and there's a horror slasher movie built around it. God, I remember as a kid, you'd see Friday the 13th, Silent Night, Deadly Night is Christmas, My Bloody Valentine is Valentine's Day, and I remember at some point I'd seen so many of them, I went, I'm surprised there isn't an Arbor Day. And lo and behold, there ended up being an Arbor Day slasher movie made in the aughts, I believe.
Yeah, but I think it was one of those, like, I'm going to shoot this with my iPhone and put it up on Prime things.
I never bothered to see it because I just went, Arbor Day? Really? Fuck you. You're scraping.
The thing is, too, a lot of people really don't. A lot of people go when it used to be more of a thing, maybe 10 or so years ago. But when it comes to holidays, a lot of people generally thought, Thanksgiving really isn't one that's been touched upon. And it hasn't been much, or at least at the height of the slasher boom. But since then, there have been a lot that have come out that have just come and gone and have been made for no money. And it's all because people thought that it was a holiday that people really didn't pay much attention to during this time when nothing was sacred as far as holidays were concerned.
Yeah, and I'll admit I'm even one of them, because it wasn't until the past 3 or 4 years that I heard about was it Home Sweet Home and there's another one, Blood Rage. There was one more that I can't think of off the top of my head, and it's not Thanksgiving. It's something else. But yeah, it wasn't until recently that I heard about those two and went, oh, there's Thanksgiving ones. The calendar's
my
complete.
video store, my mom and pop video store had both of those, so I knew about them very early on from when I was a kid, and I was renting like every horror movie in the section. Now you got me curious to what the other Thanksgiving one was.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up sometime, and cause it's on the tip of my tongue, and I just can't grab it. I can't think of it. So, watching this, so I've complained about how Brooker's seems awkward in his own body.
Yeah.
One other thing that I really that always bugged me, but I could never wrap my arms around it until now. I don't like the way that he kind of pushes his head forward and kind of does like an Igor the Hunchback kind of posture. It just, I think it takes a little bit of the imposing. I mean, he's a tall dude, but it's still kind of, it doesn't make him as imposing, having him just kind of hunched over like that. It's like, why are you doing that?
He passed away too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Ted White did, right?
No, I think Ted White's still alive. So now you're going to make me look it up.
I think he did pass away.
Richard Brooker passed away back in 2013. He was only 58.
Wow.
Damn, he's young. And Ted White is still alive.
Oh. Well, he must be up there.
How about 95?
Wow.
Born January 25th, 1926.
Jesus. Richard Brooker, the only Englishman to play Jason.
Yeah.
And you got Kurzinger. I think it's only Canuck.
I believe so, yeah. I hate the Jason makeup in this movie.
I know.
He looks like he doesn't look that. It doesn't look like Jason. He looks like he should be storming a castle in Middle Earth.
Yeah. Kind of like a little bit like those things from The Descent.
Yeah, kinda.
Except for not, because they were like white. He has more flesh colored. But yeah, they have a bit of a similarity, a little bit. But it was always interesting the way his makeup changed from movie to movie to movie.
I heard a fan theory once try to explain that was that what we're seeing isn't Jason's actual face. It's not a hallucination, but like it's so revolting that's just we're seeing it through the heroine's eyes. That's what she can process and how she can how she can accept what she's seeing. So we're seeing what she's seeing.
That's a little pompous.
Yeah, isn't it? It's putting way too much thought into Friday the 13th.
Uh-huh. You know what I didn't find out until not too long ago. In part 6, one of my favorite shots in that movie is in the beginning, right when he gets zapped and he comes back to life, and there's a close up on his eyes. And he's looking at them like, really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that wasn't C.J. Graham.
Who is it?
I don't remember. It was stunt. I think it was. I think I could totally be wrong, but I think it was the first Jason. They fired. But yeah, that's not C.J.
I did not know that. Yeah, watch out. That tree branch may come out and get you.
No, I'm assuming that this is intentionally supposed to be referenced to the first one.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it was pretty much like, I think it was mandated of, hey, we need a chair jumper, another jump scare. So let's do another pop out of the lake boat thing. Despite the fact that it makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
No, none. And I always hated the way she grabs her. Because, like, she, like, spreads her arms and it looks kind of like she's embracing her instead of attacking her.
Yeah, kinda. And she's very stiff about it too. Like,
yeah,
her arms are out, but she doesn't move her arms. She like moves her body, but keeps her arms still.
And the mask looks kind of like it's hanging off her face too. That always kind of irked me. I don't know. There's just nothing. Well, I also take issue with the way Jason grabs Alice. I never liked that because he goes at her from an angle. Because it's like his left arm is down, and he grabs her with his right, and he's like kind of to the side.
Yeah, I guess I never thought about that.
And I think his left arm. He's holding the side of the boat for balance, if I'm not mistaken. But I know that one arm is down. I like her nervous breakdown here.
Yeah, it's a nice touch. It's very it's different because, you know, everyone else, you see them just kind of, they're put in a stretcher and they're taken away, and they're weak but they're alive, and
Yeah. Her nerves are completely frayed.
Yeah.
She's going to be institutionalized.
yeah, she's having a realistic reaction to seeing 7 of her friends butchered, and
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of that had to do with the previous trauma.
right. Like, it's just, she was already on a knife's edge, and this just pushed her right over.
Right over. Yep.
And for no good reason, a shot of the lake to end the movie.
Yeah.
Or at least what's kind of like a lake. I mean, it really kind of looks a little more like a large, like a swamp / pond.
Pond, yeah. You see the video on in Crystal Lake Memories, I think it is, where they have that that cover band doing this live.
I have a vague recollection of that. I mean, you go on YouTube, you could find a cover of just about everything on Earth done by someone weird. So, there's speed metal versions of Sesame Street songs. So,
one of the funniest fan made things that I ever, this is completely unrelated too, but one of the funniest fan made mashups that I ever heard on YouTube was somebody did a disco version of Danzig's Mother. So it was I think it was a Donna Summer song, and it worked so well that it was hilarious.
I really like those mashups where they do something very creative like that, where they, you mash up Metallica and Megadeth. It didn't take much thought, but
right.
I heard one once that took the Jackson 5's ABC. It took the lyrics from that and it put them with the music from Guns N' Roses' Paradise City.
Ah.
And it works so well. You wouldn't think it would, but for some reason, it really, really works.
Thank God so many people have so much time on their hands.
Right?
I was watching, because I couldn't find anything else to do last night, a really interesting video on YouTube. This guy had made... He originally posted it as a thread on Reddit, and he called it the iceberg phase or something. But basically what it did was he got a handful, maybe a half dozen of horror films, and put them into separate tiers. And at the top was your basic Friday the 13th, Elm Street, Scream, things like that. And he had names for them. And it just kept getting worse as it went down. So then after that, it was more of Chainsaw, I Spit on Your Grave, that kind of stuff. And then we go to Human Centipede, and then Hostel, and then I think there was 8 tiers. And by the time you get to the bottom, it was movies about people eating fetuses.
Oh. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. And there was one movie that a lot of them mixed porn for some reason. I don't know. But there was another one from Serbia, not a Serbian film, but it was called like it was like it had porn in the title. It was like the porn group on the road or something weird like that, and it had a woman filleting a horse. And this was supposed to be a horror movie.
I mean, sure, parents are horrified at her career choices, but that doesn't qualify it as a horror movie.
No. See, what I don't... this really had me thinking, too, because especially with a lot of the titles, and I had never heard of 99% of the really, really extreme ones, because most people have it, and they were probably made for about $25 on a VHS camcorder. But oftentimes, I will post in message boards or Facebook groups and ask people, what is the most disturbing horror movie you've ever seen? And when I do that, I want to hear movies like, like Session 9 or like Inside or Martyrs, movies that are violent but also get into your head. And that to me makes a disturbing horror film if it's psychological. But there are others that just go for like the August Underground type stuff. It's just like, let's see how extremely nasty and disgusting we can be, or the Slaughtered Vomit Doll movies, or the Vomit Trilogy as it's called. It's like, let's just put completely disgusting things, the most disgusting things we can think of, and call it a movie. And there's no real creativity. Because to get into somebody's head and disturb them that way, to leave a mark, you really have to have some kind of intelligence. Anybody can make something gross. There's no talent there. Anybody could make an August Underground.
It kind of reminds me of you've heard of the Aristocrats joke?
I don't think so.
Okay, so and I will tie this back to our discussion. So, in the circle of stand-up comedy, there is a joke, and it's an inside joke that they tell each other, and the joke is called the Aristocrats, and they do it to screw with each other and to make each other laugh. So the joke has a format, and the setup and the punchline are always the same, but it's the middle part that is different. And so the setup goes: guy walks into a talent agency, and he goes up to the talent agent and says, "Hey, I got this act that I want to pitch to you, and see if you like it, and we'll put it on stage." And the agent goes, "Okay, so tell me what the act is." That's the setup. Then comes the middle part, and the middle part is where the comedians can freeform. So the idea is that you're supposed to think up of something repulsive. And, so an example would be, so my wife and I and my son and my daughter come out on stage, and I take a shit in my wife's mouth while my son jerks off and punches and fist fucks his sister. And then now the punchline, the agent goes, "Well, that's disgusting. What would you call that?" And the guy goes, "The Aristocrats." Because, the juxtaposition of something gross versus this title that sounds, that sounds very high society and intelligent. The joke gets told, like I said, it gets told in stand-up comedy circles, and they try and screw with each other by making the joke bigger and bigger and bigger, and they go on. There's a whole documentary about it that Penn and Teller made about it. And you've got all sorts of comedians, from Sarah Silverman to George Carlin to Bob Saget, just hundreds of comedians telling their own version of the joke. And so it's that middle part that kind of reminds me of what you're talking about, because that middle part is all about shock value. And it doesn't take a lot of imagination to do shock value. All you've got to do is just it's like they just took the middle part of the Aristocrats joke, and that's the whole joke for these movies of, let's just think of the craziest, most depraved, most inhumane things. Isn't that horrifying? No, not really. That's just gross.
Yeah. Well,
like if I were to say one of the most disturbing movies that I've ever seen, it isn't even a horror movie, but it's just the way that it's disturbing makes it horrific. It's the movie Kids. The way that those teenagers act, the way that the two lead guys behave, the fact that what's his name, Tully or Teddy, I think it is basically spreading HIV all over the friggin' neighborhood to 12-year-olds everywhere. And, the grim ending where Chloe Sevigny gets raped and she's HIV positive, and she basically exposes one of the guys to it, and he doesn't even know, but she's unconscious because she got roofied. That whole thing is just so utterly horrifying and so disturbing, but it's not a horror movie.
Well, I think what makes it kind of a horror movie is that they really weren't straying too far from their portrayal of modern teenagers, because I knew kids like that. But that was one of the main reasons why I didn't really like that movie. It was because it was a little too real for me.
It's not entertaining.
It's like there are kids like this who live not too far from me, because I was like in 9th grade or something like that when that came out. And it's like, yeah, these are kids I've gone to school with. So yeah.
But yeah, that's
also Larry
it's far
Clark
more disturbing than it. Right. But I would say that movie is far more disturbing than, like you were saying, movies where girls are filleting a horse. That's disturbing, but that's not horrific. That's just, gross.
Well, there are people who like a Serbian film because it's horrific in content, but there is a message behind it, in that the director is trying to say about his homeland. And I've heard his message get garbled a bit. Some people think it's about censorship in Serbia, but from what I heard, to live in Serbia, it's so fucked up that you're fucked when you're born and you're fucked when you die. So that's why there is the newborn porn scene, and the very last scene where the main guy kills the whole family, and then the filmmakers come in to make necrophiliac porn out of the corpses of the wife, the son, and the little boy. So I've often heard people put a Serbian film and Irreversible up together to see, like, because they're both incredibly disturbing, but which one is a better made film? And the Serbian film usually wins. because of that, because the director had such a specific vision and wanted to put it together in such a visceral manner. And don't get me wrong, it's not something that, even if I could watch it, I ever would. But I kind of admire his bravery in saying, you know, the way we live and this country is so fucked up that I want the world to know, and I'm going to show them as explicitly as I can what I see on a regular basis and how I felt living here my whole life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. It's as like you said, it's nothing that I will ever experience. I'd rather just take his word for it, because
Yeah.
the descriptions I've heard of that movie, that there's some movies like Kids, for instance. Traffic is another one. I haven't seen that, but my wife has. Crash is another one. Movies that you watch, and Passion of the Christ. I keep thinking of them. You watch them, but you don't watch them for entertainment value. You watch them for the singular experience, and then you never revisit them because they are harrowing in a way that is just not something you want to voluntarily sit through. Serbian film is like more than that.
I was having the same discussion with Tony about certain films that are so disturbing that are only good as they are. They're only really good for one viewing. But for me, there are certain ones that are so well made and so well acted that I can revisit them over and over again, as fucked up and disturbing as they are. And Requiem for a Dream always comes to mind when I think about movies like that.
I have yet to see that. It is on my list. But it is, because of its reputation, I am so apprehensive about watching that, because I know
you should be. You should be.
I know that it's just so damn bleak, and I don't know that I'm ever going to be in the frame of mind where I'm like, yes, I want to be totally depressed for the rest of the day.
Yeah. There's definitely not a happy ending in that one. But it's because of the realism and the performances. It's worth, even if you're not as passionate about it as I am and think it's something that it's worth revisiting, it's definitely worth seeing at least once, because it's just so well done.
It's more. I got a mark for watching on my HBO Max account. Just it's.
And I don't.
It's going to be a challenge to pick that one.
I think. Well, you're not going to see anything like what's in a Serbian film in it. A lot of it is tone.
The way I've heard,
there are.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was just going to say that there are some shots that I would say are shocking, but they're brief. So it's not like you get like, well, toward the end, it's like a. You've seen Boogie Nights, right?
Yes. Well,
you know how toward the end they have that sequence where it's Heather Graham in the back of the limo and Mark Wahlberg at the at the gas station, and what was the other guy's name? At the donut shop, and they're all interwoven. Because it's like the three most fucked up moments in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
With three of the main characters. There's a sequence like that in Requiem for a Dream where it's the three most fucked up moments, or the bleakest it gets for the three characters, and it's all interwoven like that.
Yeah, it's not the visuals that are scaring me about the movie. It's just I've heard that it is a movie without hope.
I would say. Yeah.
And it's hard to want to watch a movie where you know that hopelessness is the pervasive atmosphere.
You know what other movie fucked me up, and I didn't even see it? It was just the audio description. The Belko Experiment. Have you seen that one?
No, I know of it. I once I saw a few snippets of it. I wasn't sure that I wanted to see it. Like, it looks a little, I don't know, something about it. Something about it just kind of.
It's pretty fucking grim. And it got to me the first time that I did something that I never do with horror movies. It's not even really a horror movie, but with movies that get to me, and that is I had to turn it off. I was like, okay, I have to finish this later because this is a little too much. And I've met people who have seen it who didn't respond in kind, and it might have been because what I was seeing in my head was more visceral than what was on the screen. But that's another movie that is not as bleak as Requiem, but one that I can't really see any hope in it at all, because as soon as things start to get started with the experiment, it's like this is not going to end well at all, and it doesn't. It does not.
I think the last movie that I saw like that I can think of was Under the Skin.
I think I saw that one.
Scarlett Johansson, she's the only actor of name in the movie. She plays an alien that is wearing human guise, and it starts off with her seducing guys and then killing them, and it's part of her learning the human anatomy and the human condition, so she can report back to her alien masters. But then she ends up meeting this guy who has incredible facial and cranioskeletal deformities, and she feels sorry for him, and she starts to feel humanity, and so she ends up trying to run away from her human masters and or her alien masters, and as a result of that, she starts trying to experience humanity as a human being. So she starts, trying to actually forge a relationship. She actually tries human sex. That she tries to go through with the act as opposed to using it as a lure. It's just such a stark movie, the way that it's filmed, the way that it's acted. It is a dark, hopeless movie as well, because it does end on a really down note. And it's also the weirdest movie in terms of how it uses sexuality, because sexuality is a very large component of the movie because she's seducing men, and it's Scarlett Johansson, you know, a fairly beautiful woman. But it is a very unsexy movie. Like, they managed to take the sexiness out of it. There's a scene, and this is what got the movie a whole lot of press before it came out. It's the only movie where Scarlett Johansson has done nudity, and she does full frontal. She's standing in a mirror. It's towards the end of the movie. She's standing in a mirror, and she's looking at herself, and she's looking at this human body that she's adopted, and she lifts up her arm, and she sees how lifting up her arm, it lifts up her breast, and she's touching herself, but more in a medical exploratory way. You know, she picks up her leg, and she puts her hand on her buttocks, and she feels how her muscles move in it. And it's so clinical. And so she does such a good job of acting like a human being who doesn't understand how the human body works, that it removes any sensuality or sexuality out of the situation. And I don't know how they did that with Scarlett Johansson there, but somehow they managed it. It is just the most bleak, unsexy movie possible.
I'm sure somebody got off on it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that it's Scarlett Johansson naked. I'm sure I'm one of the few people who watched it and went, "That's not sexy at all." I'm positive I'm one of the few straight guys that thought that.
Yeah, I thought the title seemed familiar, but no, I've never seen that one.
It's interesting. It's very interesting, but it's very, like I said, it's bleak.
It definitely sounds weird.
It is very weird.
Like weird.
It's very impressionistic. And it was filmed in a weird way too. Like, they went over, where did they go? Scotland, I think. And they put her in a wig, and they didn't do makeup. They didn't do much makeup. And just the way that they did the wig and the way that they framed her and dressed her, she looks like Scarlett Johansson, but not. So it was enough that they did guerrilla filming, and a lot of the dialogue is ad-libbed. So the guys who she picks up randomly are real people that don't know that they're riding in a van with Scarlett Johansson.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but I don't know how well it would work on an audio described version. The visuals for it are trippy. They're very often very trippy. So I don't know how well that would translate.
Probably not very. It does sound interesting, though. Okay. Well, we have gone so far off topic.
We have.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Because this is a free form here podcast. Where talking about the movie isn't mandatory at all times. And
it's Friday the 13th 3. You can only say so much about the 3D one.
This is true. That's true. Yeah. We can't really, we can only peel back so many layers before we get to the grit. And the director's true intentions in his vision,
right,
of humanity and self-destruction and living and loving and loyalty.
I don't know how you made through that without breaking up laughing.
Oh, that was my Oscar clip. I had my fist clenched and everything.
Oh, believe me, I like Wayne's World. I could see that Oscar clip thing blinking underneath you. And I never learned to read.
It's okay. I don't mind. Well, I mine big time.
Is that true? Yeah, everything except the reading part of it.
You know what I heard that fucking blew my mind not too long ago? Somebody actually say that they watched that movie and it didn't hold up. I was like, are you insane?
No,
That is one of the funniest fucking movies ever.
I mean, it was a couple years ago, but we showed our older kids that movie for the first time, like, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. Oh yeah, it holds up plenty. It holds up great.
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
I can't take anymore. I've got a headache.
Here, take 2 of these.
New print.
New print. Little. Yellow. Different. What was the Rob Lowe's line about fucking... I don't remember. Whatever. It's your choice. Yes. And it's the choice of a new generation.
Now I have to go watch that.
I know. You know what? It's interesting to me is Mike Myers and Penelope Spheris butted heads so much on that movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing that it turned out so well.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, it had every reason to not work because of the troubled production, and yet.
Yeah. I wish that, I mean, I like part 2. I think I think it has some really funny moments. But it's definitely not anywhere near what the original is. I wonder what it would have been if she had just bitten the bullet and decided to do it.
Yeah, how much better it would have been, more focused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's still funny, though.
Yeah, it has its moments.
You gotta love the village people moment.
And the kung fu fight. And the shall we keep speaking subtitles or switch over to dub?
Old man fashioning a kayak out of a log?
Piccadilly Circus. Man, what a shitty circus.
You know, I thought for the longest time when that, and I know I'm not the only one because I looked this up on his IMDb, on his IMDb page and his message boards, but I thought the guy who played Dell was the original Geico Gecko voice. Because it sounds the original one, not anymore. But the original one sounded just like him. But apparently it wasn't him, or so it said it wasn't him. I don't know.
I barely remember the original Geico voice. I know what you're talking about, but I can't. It's been so long, I can't even remember it.
Well, he sounded a lot like Del Preston. He had to beat them to death with their own shoes. Okay. Any final thoughts? Oh, fuck, I hit the mic.
That movie made us so goofy. Oh, that movie was so goofy, it made us goofy.
Yeah, I'm a little punchy.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what's another one of my favorite parts? Wait up, guys! I fell on my keys. Ow! 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 Oh my god! All right, now we gotta put a bow on this. I doubt anybody's gonna listen to it to the end, but do you have any final thoughts on Friday 3?
Still a mid-tier Friday movie, fun, but man, is the tone all over the place.
It is all over the place, and I definitely think it's one that I appreciated more when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't. It's not as I think it's a much it's as an installment in the franchise. It's harder to appreciate it as an adult. I think it's more fun when you're a kid. Because of all the goofiness.
That being said, I won't say it's skippable.
No.
There are definitely entries that are a lot easier to go to just skip. And this one, it's a by the numbers slasher. It does its job well. It just doesn't do anything special.
Yes. It's not without its flaws. All right. Well, Jed, I want to thank you for coming back, and I'm sort of looking forward. Well, I'm looking forward to doing the commentary for the final chapter. Not really looking forward to the final chapter all that much.
Ooh, see, this will be interesting then, because final chapter is my favorite.
Nah. It's a lot of people's favorite, but we will talk about it.
Yep,
but
that's a story. That's a story for another day. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, again, thanks, Jed, for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to everybody for listening, and until next time, this is Brandon Ford wishing you all unpleasant dreams.